90s kids loved gross stuff. And what's grosser than waste? Nothing. So we got the Trash Bag Bunch. This was a 90s toy line of PVC figures by the company Galoob that were packaged in mini mystery trash bags. These bags dissolved in water and revealed a random figure, and in some rare cases, two figures. These guys were classified under two different warring factions: the Disposers, who fight for a cleaner, pollution-free world, and the Trashers, who wage war using acts of toxic terrorisms. I ranked these factions side by side from my least favorite to favorite, rather than all 36 as a whole. The reason for this is that I don't think a single Disposer would even make it in my top 9 or 10. They're mostly all just different looking humanoids with firearms. Now that's fine, but they just pale in comparison to the diverse range of monsters and creatures on the opposing side. With that being said, I'll be ranking each side from 18 to 1. Let's get into the list. Professor Garboff, or Prof. Garboff. I don't like this figure. From his pink-tipped flare gun to his weird puffy moon boots. Incidentally, he's the only character we have any semblance of a backstory on. Apparently, the professor bagged up all the trash bag bunch in their bags and tossed them off their home planet, Garbaggio. They then washed up on Earth. That's the story we're given. Begs the question why the professor bagged himself up. Doesn't make sense, and only makes my argument stronger as to why he's my least favorite of all these figures. Waster. He's wielding a rolling pin, and if that's not enough, he's covered in what looks like yellowish batter. Tan, big ears, orange onesie, nothing works. It's as though he was cast as a no-nonsense father figure on some horrible alien parody sitcom. I do wonder what exactly he's holding in his other hand, and what the emblem on his chest is, but these things just can't keep him from being on the bottom of the list of the trashers. Dr. Sheen. This is a figure that's plagued with standing on a base platform. Also, scaling is an issue that's present here, and also among the entire line in general. You can make the argument that they're all aliens, but it's just a little jarring when you're standing certain characters next to others. Really, the only thing I do enjoy about this figure is his receding hairline. Trasher. Trasher of the Trashers. Horrible name. He looks like a degenerate by human standards. His weapon is in theme, using a can lid for a shield, but his biggest flaw that keeps him near the bottom is that he's next to impossible to stand up on his own. This tends to vary from figure to figure, but mostly he just keels over. He's detailed, but he misses the mark. Fumigator. Another figure plagued with a base platform. This figure looks like he was made to fill the alien quota on the good side. I should also have noted that these original figures were developed as just random monsters, robots, and aliens. Galoob didn't really know how to market them until the Trash Bag Bunch concept was brought to their attention. So some of these guys feel out of place and sort of crowbarred into this environmental war theme. Point being, Fumigator. Fumanoid. He's a robot skeleton. His wiry torso reminds me of C-3PO. And I like that his weapon resembles some type of scrap metal conduit. The discreet venting on his mouth works, but other than that, I just think he's bland, and his paint job doesn't help in that area. Grimestopper. The last of the figures who need a platform to stand on. It's also black, so it's not as loud as all those red ones. This figure just looks generic and comes off as a grunt or a soldier. I feel like I need 20 or 30 more of these guys. That being said, I do enjoy the fan theories out there that suggest this could possibly be one of the only female characters. Just not a lot here for me to like this figure a whole lot. Stink Buzzard. Cool stance and a bright paint job. Interesting looking creature, but there's definitely cooler. I'm definitely into the no beak look. It almost translates to a humanoid, and that makes me look twice. I do enjoy the fact that fans also theorize that this is a female as well. D-Stain. What's fun about playing with what looks like an elderly man? I like that his weapons can be interpreted as some high-pressure cleaning solution shooters, but his name just makes me think of some kind of bleach pen product. Sewerot. Here's a figure that's grown on me since I was a kid. He was a figure I remember receiving at Christmas one year alongside several others, some of which rank very high on my list. So he fell by comparison, and I never really found him interesting. As an adult looking at him, I can appreciate that he's not only concealing his weapon with his wing, but his weapon is a broken faucet. Interesting and in theme. Janatax. I always thought of him as D-Stain's son. Now, I do think he's slightly less in theme than D-Stain is, but I like that his name's a cross between Janitor and Attack. I'm also a big fan of the way he's wielding his two sidearms. Skuzbeast. Awkward, inquisitive stance. I can't get over how weird his arm position is. I just love his scruffy mane, and also his purple veins on top of his orange skin. It all works to make him look like an old, dirty, lack of a better word, Scuzbeast. Sanitizor. He's bald. He's so bald. I can't really focus on anything else about him other than how bald he is. They just missed the boat on making his name a play on Mr. Clean. Like J.R. Clean or Mr. Cleanser, something. He's pretty expressive, which is cool, but he's mainly ranked where he is due to just missed opportunity. Junk Jackal. A skinned wolf jackal type thing. He had a pedicure. He's okay, but he's just not in theme. If he was kind of rotting in some way, that would have been way cooler, but the fact that he looks like he belongs in a science museum definitely loses him some points. Whitewasher. He appears to be the most out of shape on the Disposer side. He gets points for his cooler backpack and his yellow rain boots, which are in theme, I guess. He's also prominently featured on a lot of the packaging of these figures. The name Whitewasher, while in theme, it just kind of always makes me think of Tom Sawyer, though. Scum Lizard. At first glance, he just looks like a lizard man, and he is, but something sticks out. His right hand's larger than his left. You then might start thinking that his apparatus could possibly be making his hand larger, or is it just enhancing his already large hand? The fact that I'm even thinking about this earns him points to rank him here. Sergeant Waistnot. The main reason for this guy's points is his name. He's the only one that can seemingly pull military rank. Apart from that, his stance is kind of in this stalking position, which I'm a fan of. Also, Chinstrap and Widow's Peak. Why not? I always felt he was in some relation to Dr. Sheen as well. Muck Master. Never understood his name. Best I could figure was he was possibly Muckoid's keeper? I don't know. He was also one of the last figures I added to my collection as a kid. So I remember looking at his picture on the backing card more than I remember actually playing with him. I always thought he was holding a briefcase, but it ended up being a car door, which I think is pretty interesting. I could live without the arm mallet, though. Vacuator. This friendly-looking robot is just that, friendly-looking. I do have to give him points for simply not being a human figure holding a firearm. His name suggests his utility as a vacuum, and that's one of his appendages, while the other one's a buzzsaw, probably intended for cutting materials behind the line of fire, and not used as a weapon. I don't know. It's all up for interpretation. Plutor. He's a big, old, chunky, faceless robot. Serious junk in the trunk. I like the weight to this guy as well as his skull epaulets. I remember having him and Trashblaster have fights to the death. I don't think he's quite in theme, but he still has a good presence. Trashblaster. A much more intense version of Vacuator, but just trading in the vacuum for a cannon. He gets all the same reasons for points that Vacuator does, but times 2 because he doesn't look like he's smiling. Sewerot. He's another one I didn't have until late. As a matter of fact, I remember buying him secondhand at a flea market. His picture made it seem like he was holding a club, but it's actually a pipe wrench. He also looks kind of piranha-like, so he's also fish-themed, holding a pipe wrench, and his name is a play on sewer and rot. Very well-rounded character, in my opinion. Incinerator. Odd that this guy's name relates to fire, when his theme is pretty much anything but. He really needed, like, flamethrower tanks or something on his back to sell this name. I do like him for the fact that he appears to have a different face when looking at his side profile. Infector. He always looked like a gnome to me, and he's also holding a bottle. I kind of always imagined he was holding the bottle before a disposer, as like a child would hold like ice cream or something over a white carpet, just kind of threatening and taunting to drop it. and make a mess. He's also sporting some serious S&M. This guy's slightly in theme and just weird enough. Sterilizer. This figure gets all his points from his weapon. It resembles like a bow and arrow, but it's a missile launcher. It's pretty cool. I believe he's also one of the more uncommon figures of this line, as he was only ever packed as a bonus figure. Wildeye. He was the second to last figure I needed to complete my collection, and he's definitely one I spent time looking at on the card back as a kid. It's weird that his hook arm extends out like he's trying to clothesline disposers or something. The fact that his one eyeball is his only defining facial feature is pretty tight. Also love his goofy bright t-shirt and his refusal to wear pants. It doesn't hurt that his brain's exposed either. He'd probably be higher up if I had some nostalgia for him, but he was a late addition to my collection. Klutch. I like Klutch. I know many fans don't, but he's okay with me. He's a space crab, and he gets his points for his form. He has this reluctant, apathetic-like expression, and he's not in theme, but he's still a standout to me. Liceplant. Scaling in the picture of this guy would have you believe he was much larger, and that's what I always thought as a kid. Either way, this thing has presence. At a head-on view, you'd see 2 eyes and a bushel of leaves for lips, but at a glance from above, you see a different creature. Kind of looks like an intense Venus flytrap or something. Always thought of this figure as the byproduct of the Trasher's pollution. Sparkler. Some fans argue that he's the leader of the Disposers, and I'm in favor of this theory. I'm a big fan of trying to define roles for each character on either side. This guy just fits easily into the leader role. His name also implies a glimmer of light or hope for the good to prevail. Junker. The final addition to my Trash Bag Bunch collection. Definitely one of, if not the rarest figure to come by. His picture on the backer card looks pretty intimidating, and I'll always remember looking at it as a kid and not fully understanding what he could possibly be. Seeing him now as a cyborg wolf takes the mystery away, but he still has a great presence. Not in theme, but the fact that I wanted him so badly as a kid makes up the difference. Also, love the hooker boots. Just makes me think how he starts each day by waking up and looking for his hooker boots. Bio-Degrader. At first glance, he's just another human-type figure wielding a rifle, but then you notice how alien-like his face is. I'm glad they didn't ruin the vagueness of it by painting his eyes red like they did with so many others. Less is more with this figure, and I appreciate the different choices they made here. Muckoid. What a chunky alien. The double set of teeth and eyes really gives this guy what he needs. I also believe that when people remember Trash Bag Bunch, I think their minds just instantly go to him. He's so iconic. I can only imagine if you were a newcomer to this and you got this as a kid. I feel like you would have had everything you needed. Breezor. Firstly, he's not a human, and secondly, his weapon has purpose. His name meets up with his fan rifle and brings him completely into theme. The idea of fighting against airborne warfare is pretty cool. Slobber. In body length and stance, this guy's the lankiest of all the figures in the line, so just scale alone, he's fantastic. It also doesn't hurt that he's one of the rarest in the line as well. To me, this creature was always the wild card of the Trashers, in some cases possibly trying to work with certain groupings of the other side, but in the end turning on whoever he was working with. Captain Collector. My favorite disposer. Love this character. He could be the leader, but with the way he's maniacally shouting, could also be evil. I always pictured him as the older sibling of Sergeant Wastenot and the son of Dr. Sheen. He would always try to enlist his relatives and others to rise up and overthrow Sparkler so that he could lead the Disposers. I also pretended he was a double agent working with the Trashers. Now, the fact that I was able to establish all of these different scenarios as a kid just from a standalone PVC minifigure, it speaks volumes about what they achieved with him. Garbeast. He's what started it all for me. The very first Trash Bag Bunch figure I received. I remember grabbing him out of the muck left behind by the dissolved trash bag and being so excited. He looked so cool, and seeing him in the middle, top row of all the Trashers on the backer card made me think I found like the main baddie or something. The way that he's almost snarling and how he's sitting is fantastic. I always made him the one in charge of all the Trashers, and kind of always threatening Sparkler, and Sparkler was always making negotiations with him, scenarios like that. He'll always be my favorite no matter what. Well, that's my list of all the Trash Bag Bunch figures ranked. What figures do you agree with? What figures don't you agree with? What figures should have been higher? What figures should have been lower? Definitely let us know. And also, feel free to share with us some of the memories you have of this weird line.